Hello YouTube, June 17, 2019, and we're on to part 3 of breaking down Andrew Yang's very long, extensive platform. So far we've already covered all of these points right now. So everything on the left, we've covered all of this going all the way down to decrease pretrial cash bail. So there's where we starting at right now. Hopefully we can get all of this done within the first hour. Then we can finally go on to the second part of his platform, which is all of this. Once again, like I said, this is liable to be like 30 some videos. But on to video 3. So decrease pre-trial cash bail. In this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. However, too many Americans are currently in jail before their day in court because they can't afford to post bail. This is problematic for many reasons. First, it costs the country almost $80 billion per year in incarceration costs and loss of productivity. Second, it puts pressure on people to take plea agreements even when they may not have committed a crime, as awaiting trial while in jail can impose a longer incarceration period than the plea deal. The unconvicted jail population is 2 to 3 times the size of the convicted population. Once again, the unconvicted jail population is 2 to 3 times the size as the convicted population, which is problematic. Which is one thing I did not agree with President Obama about. He allowed for the circumvention of the Sixth Amendment, which I don't see how that was even able to happen. But nobody calls him into question on making it an indefinite period of time for people's trials to come up, thus allowing people to sit in jail for all these years. Like, what happened to the right of a speedy trial? That's just my 2 cents on that, though. But continuing on, third, bail determinations are highly subjective, with individuals receiving vastly different bail amounts for similar crimes. Pretty much call it out what it is. Black people are liable to face a higher bail amount compared to white counterparts, even for similar crime situations. That's pretty much what you're trying to allude to. Finally, the inability to pay cash bail obviously falls more frequently on those with lower levels of income. This often results in them losing their jobs, causing immediate economic distress. This is another pressure towards accepting plea deals, as well as causing a long-term poverty cycle which can rob them of future opportunities. States that have reformed their bail systems to minimize cash bail have been very high levels of trial attendance with very low levels of crime by those released while awaiting trial. We should be much more judicious in the use of cash bail, only employing it when necessary. Okay, so his goal is to reduce the use of cash bail, increase pretrial services. That's a little bit of laissez-faire as far as going into details compared to his counterparts. Senator Kamala Harris has made a very extensive platform of how she plans on tackling this, how she will allow for credit usage and, more so collateral. And she's for abolishing cash bails, period. Now, he's for reducing the use of cash bail versus Senator Kamala Harris is for abolishing it. And also, Cory Booker has spoken out strongly in favor of eliminating the cash bail system altogether and getting it under control as far as racial inequality, where black people are viewed higher than white people, even though we commit less of the crimes. So yeah, he done lost to Senator Kamala Harris and Cory Booker on this talking point. Also, I've even heard Senator Elizabeth Warren mention this. Even Senator Marion Williamson has spoken more in detail about this than what Andrew Yang is proposing. So he's going to lose in a debate on this talking point. I mean, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker. Like I said, you going up against some darn on prestigious names. You gonna need to bring it now. This ain't gonna do it now. Yang gang, get it together. But extend daylight savings time all year. Okay, here's one of them another random things, honey. Daylight savings time, or DST, was implemented during World War One to decrease energy utilization. While modern technology, specifically AC units, make the energy savings a wash, there are a lot of other benefits to the extended daylight hours. While mornings are darker, evenings are lighter for longer. That leads to increased exercise and outdoor activity, lower crime as the amount of time people are out in the dark decreases. Okay. Increase economic activity as people are more likely to shop at night when it's still light out. Fewer traffic accidents as it's easier to drive in the sunlight. Additionally, removing the transmission between the two different times would decrease traffic accidents that result from people being tired, alleviated the increase in heart attacks seen following the time change. Prevent us from needing to reset our clocks, a minor annoyance, but an annoyance. Prevent us from being late to work or exceedingly early, depending on the season. Really, Andrew Yang? Really? Is this what we focus on? Extend daylight savings time so bitches can't. I mean, excuse my language. So people don't have an excuse anymore to be late for work. Do you not know in the age of modern day technology, your phone naturally adjusts for daylight savings time? So if you set your clock for the same time, it will naturally adjust. So even if the hour goes up or down, your phone is still going to go off 8 o'clock. It's going to adjust for that time frame, honey. It doesn't darn gonna go off an hour later. It would naturally adjust to go off an hour early. It's still gonna be set to go off at the 8 o'clock. Okay. And as far as people sleeping at the wheels, we already got cars equipped with that technology now, where it can actually sense if you're darn on drifting and going off the road. It actually shifts you back in line. Like you literally got cars that will go into cruise control. You got cars that will darn on automatically start to shut off the car for you. Like during this time frame, the excuse of darn on extended daylight savings is very minuscule. Lower crime, like where's the statistics that you darn on pulled up from that, boo boo? How many bank robberies and stuff that has happened in the day? Hell, look at all these mass shootings left and right. We done had over 500 mass shootings within the past 2 years. And guess what? School is in the daytime. When the school, matter of fact, we're just mentioning the 4 year anniversary that the Charleston shooter, the one that was able to shoot up a church and kill 9 people, and got lunch at McDonald's, not McDonald's but Burger King. Guess what? He didn't go to evening service. He went to the morning service. He killed them in the daytime. So what are you talking about, darn going lower crime as the amount of time people are out in the dark decreases? That automatically implies that a lot of the crime happens at night. But nearly most of the mass murders have happened in the damn daytime. All the mass shootings with the schools have happened in the damn daytime. So Andrew, Lord Jesus. Yang gang, y'all need to get it together. With him going up against Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Marion Williamson, Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, and all the rest of them. This is the darn old stuff you bring to the table, and this is your excuse for it. So people won't be getting in car accidents, even though we got cars that automatically detects when darn gone people are drifting off the road. Even though we got wearable technology that can monitor your EKG around the clock and show that your doggone vitals are off. Like, come on now, Andrew Yang. Really? Decrease traffic accidents, heart attacks, and crime, increase exercise and economic activity. Honey, who said you can't exercise at night? Who got to be restricted exercising in the daytime? Andrew Yang, when the last time you been to a you I guess you're not familiar with that Planet Fitness is open up 24/7. They got the lights on for you. You can darn go in the door and still get on the treadmill. You can darn do your squats and your lifts and all that at your Planet Fitness and all that 24/7. So I'm trying to figure out why you talking about increasing exercise like people can't darn exercise at night. In the day and age where you can put the internet on your TV, your Samsung Smart TV, honey, you can get your Tiffany Roots workout in after darn dinner. So what are you talking about? Somebody needs to darn increase exercise in the day like. Ugh. On to the next subject. Lord, he just irritated me all the way with them just two right there. Relocate Federal Agency. Hopefully he talking something good on this because he just irritated me with them first 2 points. Federal agencies were headquartered in the DC area when communication technology wasn't nearly as advanced as it is today. The costs in Washington are also incredibly expensive relative to other parts of the country. This has created a federal government that often feels divorced from a large segment of the population. Federal agencies that aren't directly tied to general government activities such as the NIH should be relocated to different areas throughout the country to provide a boost to local economies and tie the rest of the country to the federal government. Okay, I guess. Now, to the extent of how much money is it going to boost those specific economies for them said, organizations is going to be there. Once again, we don't get no definite numbers. See, I'm a Capricorn. I like the darn on numbers. Don't darn on throw out vague statements like this. I like to know exactly to what degree that will warrant, even going through the process of trying to change these organizations to different parts of the country. Like, how much is it going to help? Okay, next we got democracy dollars. The trend over the past half century has been to allow unfettered spending in elections. This culminated in the decision made in Citizens United allow unlimited money to be spent by corporations in elections. It's no surprise that this has resulted in mega donors flooding the pipes of our democracy. We need to diminish the influence that mega wealthy individuals and companies have in our elections, while we must push for a constitutional amendment to allow our campaign finance laws to properly limit the power that the top 1% have. We must act much faster to save our democratic process. To do so, we must make it possible for all Americans to contribute to candidates they feel strongly about in order to drown out the voices of the few who can spend millions of dollars to influence our um, politicians. The easiest way to do this is to provide Americans with publicity funded vouchers that can use to donate to politicians that they support. Every American gets $100 a year to give to candidates. Use it or lose it. The democracy dollars will, by the sheer volume of the U.S. population, drown out the influence of mega donors. If it has been used in Seattle to great effect, and we can make their program national to move towards publicity funded elections. Okay, there are several darn on extensive problems with this. Number one, I thought we already had lobbying laws where donors can only donate so much money before having to identify as a lobbyist, and even then you have restrictions. So there's already restrictions on how much somebody can directly donate to a campaign. So that's a fallacy right there. So, and then you can't control advertisement, because what happens, like with millionaires, what they do is not necessarily donate to the person. They provide advertisement in the form of concerts. Like Beyonce is not giving Hillary Clinton $1 million, but what she is doing is she's shouting out Hillary Clinton on her concerts, which she has the First Amendment right to do. So to try to limit that will actually be trying to limit her First Amendment right of free speech, of disclosing her whatever her political affiliations is. And the same thing on the Republican side. I don't like the Koch brothers. I don't like the Koch brothers, but if they want to use their money to advertise for the Republican Party, they have every right to do so. Now, they don't have the right to try to bribe politicians directly. That should be a criminal offense. Now, I am in agreement with that. As far as giving politicians money on the side, hush money. But as far as advertisements and all of that, no. And it's like, if you're giving every American $100 voucher, okay. I mean, that still balances it out in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I guess that gives more people the incentive to go out and donate or whatever. But once again, if everybody got the vouchers and they're splitting the months, it all still balances out. But then again, I guess that will offset the donations from the upper middle class and the wealthy, who donates the maximum, $25,000, $5,000, $1,000. So I guess that would offset that. So like I said, I don't really see the need for it. What are y'all thoughts on this? Like I said, democracy dollars, I really don't see a need for it. You donate what you can towards your candidate. Um, you darn gonna vote based off of the policies that best align up with you, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or other. It does not matter. Those are my thoughts on that. Okay, ranked choice voting. Let me get some water on this, guy. Our current plurality voting system, where everyone selects a single preference and then the person with the most votes win, is viewed negatively by election scientists for several reasons. It's vulnerable to a spoiler effect, where a third party candidate can take just enough votes away from a candidate to cause them to lose, even if that candidate would be preferred to the eventual winner. It can cause strategic voting, where voters don't vote for their favorite, but rather the person they like, who is most likely to win, especially with a party-based primary system. It leads to partisanship, as centrist candidates, despite having wider support, lose out to candidates who appeal to the fringes of each party. There are many alternative voting systems that are superior to plurality voting. We should move to a ranked choice instant runoff voting system, a system that has recently been implemented in Maine and is being explored by many other localities. In ranked choice voting, each voter ranks the top three candidates from 1 to 3. After this is complete, every voter first choice is tailed. If one candidate receives over 50% of the vote, they win the election. If no candidate hits the majority threshold, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated. Then everyone who listed that eliminated candidate as their first choice has their second choice considered. The second choice votes are added to the total for the remaining candidates. If a candidate at this point has received over 50% of the vote, then they win. Otherwise, the process repeats itself until someone does receive the majority of the votes. Lord, this sounds like an episode of Dargon. What's that darn show on TLC with the four bridesmaids where you had to vote the best wedding, but to prevent the other person from underscoring the other person, they have to go by a voting system. That's what this is reminding me of. For the Love of the Dress, I think that show is called on TLC. But anyways, election experts almost universally agree that ranked choice voting is superior to plurality voting. The benefits include better capturing voter preferences. Since each voter is allowed to express how they feel about more candidates, the outcome tends to reflect the choices of voters. Better allow for more moderate candidates. A candidate that has broad cross ISO appeal is more likely to win using a ranked choice voting system, since voters can express their preference for a more partisan candidate as well as the more moderate choice. Lower levels of negative campaigning, since each voter can potentially vote for a candidate as well as their opponent. Uh, Candidates shy from negative campaigning that would alienate the supporters of other candidates, instead trying to appeal to those voters as their second or third choice. What are y'all thoughts on it? I mean, I get the premise because it does come off hypocritical when you talk so much shit about all your fellow opponents, but then when it comes down to it, now as far as on a partisan level, you have to you might want to put the second or third best candidate in your cabinet, but it's somewhat ironic when y'all done went there. Hell, we don't seem like with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton in 2016, honey, that became so toxic that neither one of them could choose each other as far as putting them in a cabinet when it was all said and done. It wasn't like 2008 when Hillary lost and she got put in as Secretary of State. Honey, Bernie Sanders didn't have a chance of getting put anywhere in darn on Hillary Clinton's cabinet, honey. So I can understand this to a certain extent, but I'm more so just let the people speak. One vote, one voice. It's like let's just go to the popular vote and let the popular vote be the nation. Like, let's eliminate the electoral college and just darn gonna go by the vote of the people. Not no darn gone another system where it's a darn gone a toss. It's like, no, let's go by the raw sheer numbers of the people and let the best person win. Okay, next is decriminalize opiates. We are in the midst of a crisis in the country. Opiates are killing 8 million Americans every hour. Oh, killing 8 Americans every hour. I'm about to say 8 million, but damn, how the word we got a population? I don't know where I see million from, but killing 8 Americans every hour, and that trend has only increased over the past several years. While those who brought this plague on our citizens must face serious consequences, honey, you might need to look towards your government for that, but honey, that's another video for a whole nother day. We need to make sure that those who are afflicted by the illness of addiction are treated and not criminalized. I hope that includes the black people in urban communities who have suffered from the crack cocaine epidemic, Andrew Yang, but just put that bud in your ear. But anyways, the individuals behind pharmaceutical companies who promoted these drugs as non-addictive while knowing better are the ones who belong in jail, not those who fell prey to the addiction. We need to decriminalize the possession and use of small amounts of opiates. Other countries such as Portugal have done so and have seen treatment go up and drug deaths and addictions go down when caught with a small quantity of an of any opiate or justice system should err on the side of providing treatment. Well, the problem is there's a lack of darn on treatment centers. So, are you going to also push for more federally funded treatment centers in areas? Because even in Fayetteville, North Carolina, honey, we was trying to search for an in-house for one of my family members. Honey, there ain't no darn on in-house in Fayetteville, North Carolina. No decent treatment facilities. So even if you decriminalize it to try to encourage them to get treatment, honey, where's the darn houses the darn put the people in? Even when somebody wants to voluntarily darn go to a in treatment house, there's a lack of. So are you going to also provide for funding for darn treatment houses instead of just giving people needles on the side of the street? You got a whole sanctuary city for heroin addicts instead of darn trying to get them treatment. But instead, you darn making sure they got blankets and making sure they got fresh needles and all of that. You darn we currently enabling the damn problem. I'm for decriminalizing and all of that, but let's not darn go to the point where we enabling the addiction as opposed to helping treating the addiction. So yes, this is all good with decriminalizing, but also let's darn add some treatment centers to get them sober. Then let's also add to the Employment Security Commission for them to darn get into darn jobs. Let them get to certain jobs and help them rehabilitate themselves so they don't go back off the wagon. You got to go through the whole 12 steps and all that. It's not as easy as what it is. It's not as easy as the flick of the pen and saying, okay, we're going to decriminalize opiates. Okay, what you do afterwards? What you going to do to actually treat the people after you darn going to decriminalize it? Are we just going to do like the sanctuary cities and just toss them darn needles and say, oh, continue to have at it. At least you don't have to worry about getting the STD now. It's like, no. They're going to provide some treatment centers and get them the help that they need as well. See, I'm not Andrew Yang. I'm not going for these vague responses. You can fool some of these other people, but you're not fooling me. You gonna have to come a lot better than this, and this is for everybody. This ain't just for Andrew Yang. For anybody who goes along with this type of stuff right here, honey, I'm holding you to the darn gone cross. You got to come better than this. Like I said, I'm for the providing treatment, but we need to go in detail on uh, adding these facilities and what money is going to be spent on getting these facilities in decent areas. The number of people that can be housed in a facility, because we don't need no little small little hut. We need large facilities. We don't need no more little plasma not the plasma center, but what's it called, the where the people go down there and get shoot up with a form of darn is a certain outpatient treatment that people who suffer from heroin addiction and stuff go to, where they get shoot up for a day to acclimate themselves off of the drugs. But that's not enough, because once again, drug use is also mental and not physical. So when you go to those outpatient facilities that is for like $12 to $20 a day, where you get shot up with some form of morphine to get you off of those drugs, you also need to go through counseling and rehabilitation to also get you mentally off the drugs as well. So I need Andrew Yang to address all of this in the platform. But anyways, we getting through this faster than I thought, y'all. We only at the half-hour point. But the next one is the Freedom um, Dividend. I want to say it was divided, but dividend, the Freedom Dividend. Oh, Now, y'all, I got a whole video on darn on UBI and my thoughts of it. I'm not about to go. I'm not about to do a round two with this UBI. So I would leave the link down below on my thoughts of darn on UBI, but we're going to quickly read this over again. Andrew will implement a universal basic income, the Freedom Dividend of $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year for every American adult over the age of 18. This is independent of one's work status or any other factor. This will enable all Americans to pay their bills, educate themselves, start businesses, be more creative, stay healthy, relocate for work, spend time with their children, take care of loved ones, and have a real stake in the future. Any change to Freedom Dividend will require a constitutional amendment. It will be illegal to lend or borrow against one's dividend. Okay, a universal basic income at this level will permanently grow the economy by 12.56 to 13.10%, or about 2.5 trillion by 2025. Come on now. And it will increase the labor force by 4.5 million to 4.7 million people, putting money into the people's hands and keeping it, and there would be a perpetual boost in support to job growth in the economy. Now, I done already told y'all, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but I already told y'all the excessive negatives about this. We done broke down the numbers in the video. I done told you y'all would have been at a negative because you talking about 2.5 trillion, but the bill is going to cost you upwards of $3 trillion annually to implement. Just to summarize what I said, also I made notion of, as a black American, if we're going to implement UBI, if we got enough money where we can give all American citizens to the tune of $3 trillion annually, then how hard is it to give black Americans reparations for the atrocities that have been set upon our people over the course of the 4 centuries that we've been here? Jews have been able to get paid out twice. Man, in fact, Jews got another reparations payout as late as 2015, I believe, for an atrocity that happened over the course of a decade that was not even done by American people. But somehow we can't find the money to pay for the atrocities that was done on American soil by the government and by uh, ancestors of white supremacists. Like, really? We can't find the money to right that wrong, but we're able to be altruistic and pay for the atrocities that were done upon people by another group of people. Matter of fact, I think the Jewish community also got paid by the Japanese and the U.S. But got paid from the U.S. twice, but we can't even get paid once. Native Americans got paid. Japanese got paid. There's currently a bill for Chinese workers to get paid for the railroads, but don't mention anything about the black people that helped out with the said railroads. But once again, all of that in my explanation in further detail will be in the description box below with Andrew Yang's UBI bill. I broke that down over a course of a full hour. So y'all go ahead and check that video out. But anyways, combat climate change. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity and our way of life. Huh? Climate change is an existential threat to humanity and our way of life. It should be a top priority of the federal government to implement policies to control anthropogenic climate change while working with other governments to implement these policies through the world. It's important to regulate fossil fuels. Okay, everybody's on board with that. So that's no different than what any other Democrat is saying. Both to control climate change and to improve the health of the average American. Renewable energy must be invested in not only as a means of moderating climate change, but also to drive economic growth. However, innovation must also be relied on to reverse the damages already caused. While the role of the federal government is important, much of the work will be done at the state or even neighborhood level. The federal government should support local efforts through funding and marketing-based incentives. Okay, that's all good and dandy, but the thing is, he's not saying anything that all the other candidates are not saying within the Democratic Party. Oh, wait a minute. Here's some stuff right here. Invest heavily in carbon capture, engineering technologies designed to reverse damage already done to the environment through a new global geoengineering institute and invite international participation. Okay. In the current tax benefits and cuts given to fossil fuel companies, which would give them an unwarranted competition advantage over alternative energy sources. Once again, everybody's on board with that and has already made similar proposals. Another thing I would actually propose is, are we going to stop darn on sending our junk to other secondary and third world countries as well and causing them to? Because if you're talking about this on a global front, I find it hypocritical that we're talking about cleaning up America, but on a global front, the climate change affects everybody. And if we're going to make our America green and great, we also need the same thing happen to brown skinned folks in India. Because do you not know how many tens of millions of doggone water bottles and stuff and waste that we send to these countries? How many waste that we send to countries in Africa to store for us because we already flooding up our doggone waters and stuff here? We ship it off to other countries and say, oh well, you less off than America, so you can deal with all our leftovers. So are we also going to implement a immediate stoppage to darn on throwing our darn on waste out to darn on countries that they did not contribute to that mess? So I would also like that to be addressed as well. That in addition to cleaning up our waste here in America and reducing the carbon footprint, we could also stop darn on throwing our carbon footprint onto darn on other countries, especially countries in second world to third world status that don't have the means to counter us as far as saying no, because America likes to pick on other countries. We one of the leading countries in the world. So as soon as a country gives us a pushback, we want to go into war with them. Like we need to cut that shit out as well. Because I'm sure India don't appreciate all the trash that we darn gonna send them on a darn on daily basis. But anyways, reduce mass incarceration. Now, let's see what he has to say on this compared to Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Senator Kamala Harris, and Senator Cory Booker. Also, Miss Marianne Williamson. America imprisons a higher percentage of its citizens than almost any other country in the world, and minorities are disproportionately represented in the group, specifically Black people, followed by Latinos. Don't say minorities because that minority is a very open, vague, ended term. Minority can mean anybody that's not white. Africans are not dealing with this in high numbers. Asian people are not dealing with this in high numbers. It's specifically Latinos and Black people. Black people first and Latinos second that are dealing with this. So we can afford to be more specific with what group of minorities that are being affected by this. But anyways, carrying on, incarceration doesn't just set someone back for the time they're in prison. With our current felony laws, they follow someone throughout their life. mandatory minimum laws, the war on drugs, and the other misguided policy decisions over the years passed by politicians with an eye towards being tough on crime have resulted in a glut of Americans behind bars. Instead of focusing on what sounds or feels good, we should focus on results. While individuals should be punished for committing crimes, the end goal should be to prevent people from committing crimes and to lower recidivism rates for those who are convicted. Outside of my social policies, such as UBI, which will eliminate poverty and then reduce one common driver of crime, there are many things that we can do to ensure that the safety of Americans by preventing people from becoming criminals. You mean the ones who are actually were? Because there's also a lot of ones that are just. Matter of fact, over 200,000 people in jail alone are in there just for darn on marijuana possession, and not to the level of a drug trafficker either. Review the current mandatory minimum laws to bring them in line with what data shows us is effective. Shift federal drug policies away from punishment and towards treatment. In the use of for-profit private prisons. That's something that everybody in the Democratic Party is in agreement on. So, okay. Fund programs targeted at reducing recidivism and increasing reintegration. Push for a reconsideration of the harshness of our federal laws, including the investigations into any civil rights issues raised by the disproportionate amount of minorities uh, convicted of these crimes. I'm overall here for it. I'm overall here for it. Like I said, it's just not nothing that he's adding to it that is anything different than what like Senator Elizabeth Warren has already proposed. Why do I feel like I already went over the opiate crisis? Do he got this on here twice? Okay, he got decriminalized opiates and then he got the opiate crisis. So let's see what makes this different than this one. Okay. So I guess this is just talking about decriminalization of it, and this is talking about the crisis overall. Okay, so approximately 115 Americans die each day from an opiate overdose. Many more struggle through addiction, including all the negative health and behavior impacts that it entails. Nearly 220 million prescriptions for opiates were written in 2016, despite the risk of these drugs being well known, and over 2.6 million are addicted to opiates. Outside of the immediate health effects, drug trafficking and related crimes have sprung up in communities throughout America in order to cater to these addictions in our country's healthcare system. Complicit in the creation of the crisis hasn't found a way to treat the outbreak. Well, actually, that's a fallacy because they've already started putting the Percocets in gel form. So for people who like to snort, now, once again, don't y'all judge me now. I don't take no darn opiates. I tell y'all, I'm from the South, and I had to have my darn on fans. My nose would darn go off on down Cuba, honey. Ain't nothing going up this nose, baby. This is just darn on from this darn on fans. I had to keep up on me so I can do these videos for y'all. But anyways, um, they have made them in jail form to prevent people who do that from being able to do that. So for the ones who like to snort pills, you can't do it like that no more. They are steady putting them in the jail forms. The opiate crisis isn't just a nationwide public health emergency, it's a national crisis. Tens of thousands of people are dying each year, with millions more suffering from addiction. Many of these people's addiction started when they were prescribed these medications by a doctor. The human suffering caused by this crisis cannot be measured, and the economic damage is untold. We must do more than declare this a crisis and hope the issue solves itself. The federal government, through the Department of Health and Human Services, must find solutions to this emergency and coordinate with the states in its implementation. The CDC must use its expertise to quantify and combat this plague. The FDA, good luck with the FDA, honey. But that's a whole nother video for another day. But the FDA must implement new steps to ensure that a similar crisis doesn't develop in the future. Well, we might need to start by separating the interchangeable interests that the FDA has with the pharmaceutical industry. We might need to do that, deal with that, but that's a whole complex video within itself. So good luck with trying to get the FDA to do it out of the altruism of their hearts for the concerns of the people when this is darn on a factor in it. But like I said, that's a whole hour-long video breakdown on the FDA and how they benefit with the pharmaceutical industry, honey. But most of all, we have to find fund treatment for everyday Americans. And like I said earlier, to reinnovate, there is a significant lack of in-treatment facilities. I have cousins that we have tried to commit into treatment for opiate addictions, for crack cocaine addictions, amongst other things. And there is a lack of treatment facilities in North Carolina and in other areas in general. I'm in a major city. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and there's not even a decent in-house treatment facility. So imagine like in Lumberton, North Carolina, and in other areas that are not even a big city. So even in darn major cities, we're not having enough treatment facilities to get people back to normal and to prevent them from falling back off the wagon. But anyways, there's a chart right there. Then it goes on to say, however, the federal government must also recognize its limitations in this crisis. While funding research and solutions is something the federal government is good at, this epidemic is affecting people on an individual level. Local governments will be much better able to experiment with and implement solutions that will work for their communities. The federal government, through funding and centralization, can help the work of states and local communities in the crisis, but it should serve as a motivating and coordinating force in order to ensure adopting policies that work for the people on the ground. Okay, now it says, as president, I will declare a state of emergency and seek to bring down both the overdose numbers and the addiction levels by 20% within 4 years. Quadruple federal quadruple federal funding from 4.5 to 20 billion a year directed toward addiction treatment and rehabilitation for um, addictive opiates at the local levels. Okay. So that will in turn, if done correctly, put up more facilities across the country, which I would be in total agreement for. Impose a new tax on opiate manufacturers to fund treatment and rehabilitation. Retroactive to 2005, the drug companies will pay to treat the conditions they have profited from. I'm even more for that. The FDA should allow only doctors who complete specialized education in pain management to prescribe opiates for more than a few days. All states should limit the size of prescription and require all opiate prescriptions to be made from hospitals instead of individual offices/practices. Huh? Oh, wait a minute now. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. All states should limit the size of prescriptions and require all opiate prescriptions to be made from hospitals instead of individual offices/practices. Now I don't know about this because hell, the darn on hospitals be the main ones, be the ones up in it. Hell, your darn gone hospital be the ones that really have you darn gone turned out on all the darn gone prescriptions handed to them. It's your darn gone local doctors and stuff that are not as easily corrupt. I mean, your small darn gone independent doctor is not to the level of a major darn gone doctor's office. So that's a little bit backwards on that front right there. I don't know what made you think that the hospitals are more trustworthy than the independent doctor offices. Are there some crooked doctors? Yes, I know some, quite frankly. But however, it's like let's not darn go act like the darn hospitals are saints, honey. They're actually more corrupt in the grand scheme of things. But anyways, I done lost where I was at all station. Okay, right now our prescription rate is 4 times higher than in Europe. We need to bring it down. Doctors need to tell more patients that they'll feel better on their own without having to take opiates. Bull motherfucking shit. Now, that's easy for somebody to say they ain't suffer from anything. Now, I ain't for totally darn gone talking about, oh, you can darn gone battle through the pain. Honey, try dealing with Crohn's disease and tell somebody who darn gonna feel like a knife is being stabbed through them while they darn gonna insides feel like gasoline has been light up in them. So imagine your insides feeling like it's on fire and you being stabbed. And then they tell you, oh, well, you can darn gonna battle it through in a few days. Now, I don't believe in darn gonna over-regulating to the point where a person who actually suffers from a debilitating condition. Because this is what happens when people like me who suffer from Crohn's disease has to get prescription drugs. Now we looked at sideways because so many people are misappropriating the drugs when people like me actually need to take one. Now, fortunately for me, I got my CBD oils, I got my black seed oils, but for people who are not naturalistas, who wants to go the traditional route, I don't think you should darn gonna be telling them necessarily that they can weather the darn gone pain. Until you know how it feels to go through a darn gone debilitating condition, honey, miss me with that. But anyways, direct the Department of Health and Human Services to focus on their resources on combating the epidemic until it's under control. Create a centralized database of solutions and effectiveness. Create a centralized database of data to help analyze the trends of the opioid epidemic and better target resources. Provide funding to localities to experiment with solutions that work for their communities. Direct the FDA to regulate pharmaceutical company marketing tactics as much as they regulate the release of new drugs. Okay, we getting into some details with this one. How come he couldn't have been darn gone more detailed with all the other ones? I'm going to have to circle back to see if I overlooked something. Overdose patients should be sent to mandatory treatment centers for 3 days to convince them to seek long-term treatment. Work with the, now I don't know about this one. Now it depends on the overdose now. Now because hell, sometimes it could be as just taking one pill too many by accident. Uh, but I get the premise of this nonetheless. Work with the DEA to enforce a much stricter limit on the number of opiate-based medications that can be produced in any given year and instruct manufacturers to report drug prescribed in each community so as to monitor excess supply and probable abuse. Okay. Destigmatize medication-based treatment options for opioid addictions. We need to do whatever works best, including drugs that enable addicts to recover in stages. Okay. Allow local law enforcement authorities to selectively enforce criminal laws related to use and possession of opiates to facilitate treatment. Work to limit the importation of heroin and fentanyl, particularly from China. Okay, come on for calling out your own. I give him that for him to be brave enough to call out the motherland from which he stems from. Because, honey, a lot of it do come from motherfucking China. I'm glad somebody was able to be ballsy enough to darn on address the issue of the root cause, honey. Because we always like to blame it on black people in the inner cities, but we don't never blame where all the drugs is actually coming from. So, honey, shout out to Andrew Yang for darn on been having the courage to get them together. Now, if he ain't Chinese, excuse me, y'all. I know he's Asian. I'm just gonna hope that he's Chinese, cause I don't want y'all being thinking like, oh, see here he go now. If he was to turn back and say all black people look alike, I'm naturally assuming Andrew Yang is Chinese. Y'all correct me if he's not. If he's Korean or Japanese, I definitely apologize. But at least for him calling out a fellow Asian community, honey, shout out for him on that though. The Chinese government must do more to curb supply before it enters our country. We should negotiate for mark and demonstrate reductions in return for continued market access. Honey, once again, this was the best out of all that I done gonna read on Andrew Yang yet as far as detailed policies. This is the most detailed that I've ever seen him go on a policy. Unless I just been overlooking the other parts. Let me darn on circle back, honey. Let me circle back. No, okay. I have been doing my due diligence to fully look through it because at first I'm thinking that I might be overlooking certain stuff, but no, that's the most detailed he's ever been on a darn gone policy. Yep, because he don't go in detail to none of that extent on the rest of these stuff. But honey, when he got to this opiate crisis, he had a good old solid paragraph for us. See now, if you're gonna be more solid with giving answers like this with the other ones, honey, I might be Yang Gang 2020, but you still got a couple months to get it together. You got a whole half year. Hopefully, you come across my videos and you can make the rest of your platform as far as responding to answers just as extensive as you did with this. If you get the other policies together, honey, I might darn gonna have to give you a chance, Mr. Andrew Yang. But speaking of Andrew Yang, honey, we are finally done. We are finally done with this whole section, honey. We done got this whole block out the way. Now, as far as LGBTQ rights, I'm going to do a special for y'all, and I'm going to do a whole separate video on that to end this block out. Um, I was thinking that I was going to just start it off with the next slide, but considering that this is Pride Month and some of y'all don't like looking at these hour-long videos, I'm going to do y'all two solids. I'm going to do this by itself. That way it gives y'all a break from having to, go through an hour-long video. This will probably be like 20-30 minutes long because LGBTQ rights in the midst of everything that's going on the global front with LGBTQ right now, honey, this is going to be a long, lengthy topic within itself. It's like I said, during Pride Month, it definitely deserves its own special slot. So I'm going to go ahead and dedicate this to a separate video. Um, this won't be in the number series. Y'all know how I'm doing Andrew Yang's platform number 1, 2, 3, etc. This would just be Andrew Yang's thoughts on LGBTQ. And then when we go to Andrew Yang's platform number 4, we will start off with foreign policies and first principles. And then we'll go all the way down and probably stop at campaign finance reform. Because like I said, we probably going to have to break this section up into like another, 4 to 5 videos within itself, depending on how lengthy they is. Like if it's anything like this one, honey, we might darn gonna have to break it up into like 8 parts. But if it's anything, laissez-faire, like if it's like this, honey, we might can just break it down into like 3 or 4 videos. So depending on how he's talking in the next one, would determine how many videos we're going to get out that second section of points right there. And then going into July, we will finally be able to tackle this section over here. Okay, he got programs for single parents, American Mall Lad. I'd like to see what that's about. Making taxes fun, net neutrality, and just for the sake of just for y'all to get my raw responses, I'm looking at this in real time with y'all. So I, for the most part, for the exception of one bill, the penny don't make sense. The penny makes no sense. This is the only bill that I looked at beforehand. But everything else, y'all are getting my raw reaction of looking at it for the very first time with y'all and seeing what my thoughts is about it. So I'm going to keep that theme up on y'all seeing my very raw first reaction to Andrew Yang's bill. So that is it, y'all. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Leave y'all thoughts below on what y'all thought of the current topics that we went through. So just to iterate what we went over today, we started off with decreased pretrial cash bails, and we ended it at opiate crisis. So we tackled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we went through 10 points from Andrew Yang within the past hour. And then we're going to go into LGBTQ rights and then go on to this section. So that is it, y'all. Leave y'all thoughts on this right here. Share, and I'll see y'all soon with more videos. Mwah.